Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Fumble Fever. I'm Micah. This guy's Dylan. We got a big Saturday slate of games coming your way, but before we can get to that, we have to talk about something that I was scrolling on ESPN earlier today. Saw a post that was made saying that both Todd McShay and Mel Kiper Jr., which, if you guys don't know who those two guys are, they're NFL analysts that extensively study the draft throughout the entire process of the season and all the way into the off season. They never stop looking at the draft coming up. And they said that they believe that not Kyler Murray. Every time I think of him, I want to say Kyler Murray immediately.
OU.
Yeah, from OU.
From last year.
But Jalen Hurts, the transfer from Alabama, that he will not go in the first round of the NFL draft. And I got to wondering where you thought that he might land.
I kind of agree with him. He'll probably go second round. He's probably either third or fourth behind Justin Herbert and Tua.
Okay.
His arm talent just isn't as good as Tua or Justin Herbert, but he has improved since he left left Alabama.
Yeah, I have to agree with that as well. I'm gonna say that he's probably gonna be mid to late second round, maybe early third round. I think what most people don't tend to realize when they're watching his highlights and all the special stuff that he does is the fact that his throws actually aren't always NFL caliber throws. They weren't when he was at Alabama. He's improved in the system over Oklahoma, but he still hasn't got to that level.
That Oklahoma coach, he's really good at developing.
Oh, it is amazing. Lincoln Riley is a heck of a coach for offense over there, but
not much for defense. But
well, they have improved though.
Oh, yeah.
They have improved majorly, which has been a big difference for this team. But if I can, I'll actually read the statements off to you that both Todd McShay and Mel Kiper said about them, and I'm going to start here with McShay, as he says, "I see Hurts on a day 3 prospect right now, and a few people I've talked to around the league agree. Actually, I think the third round could be his ceiling, but you have to factor in how Mayfield's and Murray's seasons go. If they look impressive over in the NFL this season, then the Riley factor, as he calls it, gets on even bigger bump. After all, Mayfield's first-year success helped Murray's stock, and if Mayfield remains inconsistent in year 2 and Murray continues his rookie struggles, expect the Riley factor narrative to dull teams' interest in taking an early round gamble on Hurts." Now, he had that to say. Kiper was a little bit more optimistic than Todd McShay, having him in the second round. But what he said in a statement was, "I'm more optimistic here. I don't think Hurts is going to be a first-round pick, but he could land in round 2 if he keeps playing this well. I want to see him against the Longhorns and better competition the rest of the way." Out of the two people that I just read off their statements to, when I read both of those to myself earlier, I thought that, oddly enough, I was agreeing more with Mel Kiper in this instance than Todd McShay, which, me personally, I typically go the other way around. I typically tend to follow Todd McShay more. The reason, and the only reason for me, that I would agree with Mel Kiper in this situation is the fact that I, too, am waiting to see how he does this week.
Yeah, it's gonna be
going into Texas. If he can make those big throws against a team with some fairly decent DBs, and he can make the big
DBU.
throws. Yeah, well, self-claimed DBU for the Longhorns didn't pan out well. They really messed up seeing that against LSU.
Oh yeah.
In a major way, and that's made a lot of people's perception about how their defensive backs are doing, but they're still top notch, especially probably too. It's the best line of DBs in the Big 12 now. So I need to see him, just as Mel Kiper said, against Texas, and that's going to be a major game moving forward. Is there anything that you can think of that maybe he should improve on?
Mainly just accuracy down the field, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
That's mainly just accuracy.
And we'll be able
because he has all the talent in the world, pretty much.
Oh,
I feel like.
I think he's gonna do great things when he gets to the NFL. I don't want people to get me wrong on that. I'm
very athletic.
Yeah, he's very athletic. He may have a really good shot at the way he's playing it, coming close to the Heisman race, or at the very least being in New York.
I think Joe Burrow is gonna win that one.
Yeah, a lot of surprises.
I say that every week.
Yeah, well, you should reiterate it every week because it needs reiterating because it's incredible what he's been able to accomplish this season. But I think I think that Jalen Hurts will be in the Heisman discussion. He's obviously phenomenal. He added a catch last week to his resume, and then a little bit after that, I don't know if you saw this, but they ended up with a 3rd and 50.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
A 3rd and 50 from the goal line after they tried to do the exact same thing, a little reverse play, and got a little bit too cute. Kansas wasn't fooled, and that was one of those fabulous things I've seen in a very long time.
Since last year when they Mississippi State did this, they did the same thing.
Did they really?
Yeah, they fumbled and it went all the way, instead of going to the 50, it went all the way like to the other side of the goal line because they kept on kicking it. That's trying to dive for the ball.
Yeah. One of our favorite things here, obviously, is fumbles on Fumble Fever. So anytime we see one of those, it's going to be exciting.
Oh, yeah.
But I think people, get confused. Not confused, but a little, almost like a magician puts on a show. That's how Jalen Hurts is viewed in a lot of ways across America because he's so sensational. And if somebody's going all the way to the high, it's hard to think, oh, how could he not be first overall in the NFL? And there's always surprises going into the draft. You never know when somebody's just going to jump up like the Giants did last year and grabbing Daniel Jones. But more than likely,
good pick, I say.
It turned out to be a good pick. And I thought that from the beginning. I was one of the few people that was thinking that it might end up okay. But yeah, you don't really know what's going to happen, and we'll see how it pans out, and we'll see in a major way how he shapes up against this big game against Texas. And speaking of which, since Oklahoma playing Texas in the Red River rivalry, who do you have in that game?
It's going to be very close. It's going to be in a 30 to 40 point range. I see Oklahoma pulling it off because their defense is improved and it's better than Texas defense, I feel. So they're gonna 7 points. That's what I have in mind.
Okay, I'm gonna go Oklahoma as well. Thinking basically some of the same reasons that you pointed to already. I think I like Texas.
Hurts is gonna be too much, I think.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Hurts and the Oklahoma offense outpowers Texas, outscores them, and hopefully, as you said, it should be a good game. I hope it's certainly not a blowout. I don't see that ever happening with a rivalry game of this magnitude because if you've seen times in the past, even when one team's really bad and the other team's fairly decent, they usually pull out a big time game. For this one, everybody's pumped. I mean, the crowd's split right in half, so it's hard not to get excited about this game.
One of the best rivalries in the country.
Yeah, that is very, very debatable that it could be one of the best for sure. So we're definitely looking forward to that one. And I'm gonna pick Oklahoma as well. We're also, of course, looking forward to some local games here. Both Clemson and Carolina playing on Saturday after their bye weeks. And starting off with Carolina, they got their rivalry team in Georgia coming up. Is there any keys to you in that game to how South Carolina could pull out a major upset?
Running game. They got to get Dowdle and Feaster going in the running game. That's their best. That's their best weapon, pretty much. Dowdle and Feaster, and the defensive line. One of the best in the SEC. I think it was. I looked on ESPN. I think they're fourth in the SEC in sacks. So they gotta get sacks on Jake Fromm and just stuff the run pretty much.
Okay, so
And
that's
I feel like if they get it in the fourth quarter, within
Yeah.
within 7 points, they got a chance.
yeah. You got to make it a fourth quarter
Yep.
game if you're Carolina.
Yeah, they can't do it like they did against Missouri and get tired out
Mhm.
in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so that's the keys to the game. Is there any foreseeable way that you actually see that happening?
I see us battling to the fourth quarter,
Okay.
or I see South Carolina battling to the fourth quarter, but I don't see them winning. Georgia's gonna win that game.
Okay. How many? What's your point on that?
I'll probably say 10 points. They're gonna pull away.
That's fair. That's probably fair, to be honest.
Yeah, there's no way they're gonna beat us by 24 points. Or
Yeah.
like the point spread
I agree
says.
with that because on paper it looks like Georgia should absolutely kill South Carolina, and we see that many years. But every time this game is played, for whatever reason, and I know it's a rivalry game, but for whatever reason, Carolina always plays them close.
And it's a 12 o'clock game too.
Noon
so
kick
it's gonna be
affects
hot.
Yeah, noon kick definitely
And
affects
they're
things.
in South Carolina. They're more used to the heat than Georgia is. I feel.
Why do you say that?
Even though both Atlanta and Columbia are in the middle of a city, so
I don't know how the Heat is going to be a big differentiation
hey.
between the two teams. I don't know. It's hot in Georgia.
Oh yeah.
I've been there more than enough. It's hot.
Mhm.
It's way too hot. But noon
But
kick.
nothing compares to Columbia though. In the middle of that city, you know what I mean?
No, I don't know what you mean.
It's super hot. It's
you-
100 degrees here. It's 110.
I'm gonna take your
120
word for
on
it.
the field.
I'll take your word for it. I'm not in Columbia as often as you are, so I'll have to take your word on that, and we'll see how they're able to handle that conditioning wise. It's bad enough that we have to say that in the middle of October, but that's where we're at here in the Southeast. Back to the game though, I do agree that Georgia probably pulls away late, like you said. I think South Carolina just battles them for a while with really and truly to me, is going to have absolutely nothing to do with talent, nothing to do with play, nothing
It's
to
just
do with
rivalry
anything,
game.
just the fact that it's a rivalry game and the fact that it's going to be
We always come out
close.
ready.
Yeah, they do. And I'd say maybe 10, maybe somewhere around 14, maybe late they kind of stack it on them. I've seen Carolina get, like you said, tired at the end of games because their
Missouri.
depth is not very good. Yeah, against Missouri for one example. For Georgia, I'd say that their key difference here is probably going to be their running game. You talked about how Carolina needs to get their running game going. I think if Georgia gets DeAndre Swift going as well,
it's going to be a long day.
It's going to be a very long day because we've seen some breakdowns on the Carolina defense, especially tackling has been a major issue, I think, that really needs to get corrected, which has been surprising to me to see all the problems, especially this year on defense, especially with a defensive-minded head coach in Will Muschamp, who is coming closer and closer to that hot seat. It's definitely starting to burn. And
he feels it, I know.
He has to feel the pressure because you have to get tired at some point of so many years of mediocrity, and if they can't pull out
he has to win at least one game.
One big game that they're not supposed to, either Georgia or Florida or Clemson,
to get off
the hot seat. Now, if he does beat, especially, I say if he was to beat Clemson at the end of the year,
he would definitely
he's off the hot seat for good. He's solid for a whole other year because that's just the weird weight of how rivalries go. It's like, hey, lose all these games, but if you beat your big team rival, makes a big difference. Yeah, he'd be state champions at that point, so that would help, and it would definitely help to make it where there's not a 6 in a row ended at the 5. So, but I can say that pointing back to South Carolina's running game, it was good seeing Feaster get into it last 2 weeks ago and finally get some momentum and get some confidence behind him. And I saw an interview with him talking about, he was discussing how great Dow has been and how wonderful it's been to learn behind Dow, and phenomenal guy, and all that. So, but moving on to the rest of the state, with Clemson up in the upstate, they're taking on their rival in Florida State coming up. How do you feel about that game?
I just got a gut feeling that this game isn't going to be close, but I think Florida State, they're going to score the first touchdown. Then after that, do nothing. It's going to be 45-7.
So a bounce back for Clemson after a close game against North Carolina. I don't want anyone to overreact. I've seen a lot of people overreacting already with Clemson's game against North Carolina, that it's going downhill from here. It's not. I can guarantee you that right now. It's not.
The same thing happened last year.
Yeah.
Then they struggled in one game, Syracuse, and then bounced back for the rest of the
I haven't been worried. They're freshmen and sophomores, most of them. They needed to have that adversity hit there, and now that they have, and that they've had a bye week to fix all those issues, I'm more than confident, especially with it being Florida State, that Clemson gets a blowout victory in this one.
What do you think the score is? About the same thing?
Probably close to the 27-point spread, somewhere close to it. Maybe Clemson by about 30.
Okay.
I would assume. But Florida State, big rivalry. Florida is having a monster game. I don't know the stat on this. I feel like it's been a long time since we've seen back-to-back game days go to the same team. But that is where we're at with Florida versus LSU. That should be a fun one.
Yeah, the reason they did that is because they go to OU, Texas every year. That's pretty much the only reason they did that. Because they normally don't go back-to-back to the same team.
Well, how do you feel about that game?
I got this isn't my upset pick of the week.
Yeah.
And I changed my answer just like the second because I had LSU winning.
Yeah.
But I got a gut feeling I'm gonna go Florida.
Okay.
I think their defense is gonna step up again.
Yeah. But it worked somewhat well for you last week. You were feeling Florida. You're feeling Florida now. They're trending upwards, which is a great place to be. I think for me, LSU is just too hot right now. Joe Burrow is.
He's still gonna have a game.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be Joe Burrow's fault that they lose. It's gonna be the defense.
Okay.
That's the reason why they're gonna lose.
Okay. I still don't 100% believe in Florida. I know that was a monstrous win against Auburn, but if anybody that watched that game will tell you it was an odd game. It was just as weird as can be. Many mistakes on both teams. So I still think Florida, as I've said earlier, is going to continue to slip at some point.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be this game.
Yeah, okay. So that's actually interesting because this game is probably the biggest one they have left on their season. If they beat LSU, people's really going to start to talk about them as serious contenders for the playoffs. And we'll see how that pans out. But I'm going to take LSU, not in a blowout, not like I probably originally thought before the Auburn game. I probably would have told you a blowout. Now I'm going to say maybe about a 10-point victory for the Tigers. Few more games to get to. We do have USC taking on Notre Dame. Another rivalry game, interestingly enough. All the rivals are either playing each other or vice versa. How do you feel about USC and Notre Dame?
I got Notre Dame. I got them pretty big in this one. Probably 15 points.
Okay.
It's about the spread, pretty much.
Yeah, I think
they handle business.
I've been intrigued by Notre Dame as of recent because they've done far beyond expectations. Not only expectations for myself, but expectations for the rest of the country and the experts. And I've been kind of trying still to figure out what USC really is at this moment. It's been a wild roller coaster.
And they're down to the third string, right? Quarterback?
Yeah, they're still with him as far as I know. Matt Fink, third string for quarterback for USC. It's just for me personally, I don't like inconsistency,
Mm-hmm.
and all I see with USC is inconsistency,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the major reason that I'm gonna have to go with Notre Dame. And they still, by the way, have a shot at the playoff because of how close they played Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot of respect from the
And
country.
they probably would have won
that
that
one.
game if it wasn't for the crowd at Athens, I think.
Yeah, maybe on a neutral site
Mhm.
field, or especially at Notre Dame, they definitely could have swung the other way.
Mhm.
So that is something that they'll consider at the end of the year,
Mhm.
depending on how many teams are undefeated, how many teams have one loss, and obviously the fact that Notre Dame doesn't play a conference
do you
championship.
Do you think they'll go to the playoffs?
No,
No, I don't either.
no. I personally, I don't think that that's even going to come close to happening.
They're not the top 4 team.
Mm-mm.
They're not the top 4.
No, there's too many good teams
Mhm.
this year. It's been crazy.
They're definitely a top 10 team. What do you think?
Yeah. I suppose at the bottom,
Mhm.
at the bottom of the 10 right now is where I'd have them. But team that could sneak into the top 10, a lot of people don't have on their radar right now is Penn State in the Big Ten. Their other contender over there right now is Ohio State in their side of the division, but they got a monstrous game coming up themselves versus Iowa. You see any way that Iowa pulls out the upset this week? I know they disappointed us last week against Michigan.
There's always a chance when you have a good defense,
Mhm.
but I don't see them winning Penn State.
You don't see Penn State win?
No, I don't
Oh, you
see,
don't see Iowa
winning.
Okay, you don't see Iowa winning.
I got Penn State in this one.
I'm gonna go with Penn State as well.
Mhm.
They've been really surprising me a lot this season. Their
Mhm.
offense has been lights out for a
Mhm.
bunch of guys that most people don't even know the names of.
Mhm.
Probably some people that we're gonna learn the names of
Oh, yeah.
here very
Definitely.
shortly, because if Penn State continues to play the way that they're going to be playing, they're going to meet Ohio State, and both teams are going to be undefeated, and
Mhm.
that's going to be perhaps a major implication for the playoff race.
Yeah.
But there's no way, with the way things are trending right now, that I can't go Penn State.
Mhm.
There's just no way. And we got another big game going on in the Big Ten. Last game that we have to talk about between Michigan State and Wisconsin. You see any way that Michigan State is able to pull out a big time, much needed win here?
No, I don't see that happening with Wisconsin. With Wisconsin's defense and their
Yeah.
offense with Jonathan Taylor, I see probably 24-10, late fourth quarter.
Yeah, and Jonathan Taylor, by the way, going to be continuing his Heisman campaign. He's been phenomenal, and if that's a name that you don't know, or if he's not on your Heisman watch list now, he definitely should be, and you should be looking for him in the next few weeks and seeing how dominant this kid actually is, because it's been a treasure
Mhm.
being able to watch him throughout
Oh yeah,
the
definitely.
past few years, and a guy that has been consistent so far. 2 years ago, getting almost 2,000 yards rushing.
Mhm.
Last year, getting over 2,000 yards rushing. And this year, already having 745, and we're midway through the season. He's well on his way to possibly being able to do that or break that again this year, which would, in turn, for just 3 years, if he was able to do that, would give him almost 6,000 yards.
Mhm.
I mean, that's
That's
unfathomable, right? I mean, that's
He would
crazy.
definitely be considered one of the best backs ever
Right,
to be in college football.
right. And right now, the only reason that his numbers are somewhat down is because now all of a sudden he's receiving the ball too and getting touchdowns there. And
Yeah, he had his first
touchdown this season against South Florida in the first
Receiving
game.
touchdown.
Yeah, first receiving touchdown against South Florida, the very first game, and then he racked up like 2 or 3 more after that in the games after. So when you got a guy like that, it's hard to pick against the Badgers. And as I've said before, I'm not going to pick against them until we get to the Big Ten championship game, and I'll make a game time decision then when we get to it. But that's it for the games. One last thing before we go, we obviously have to do our upset picks. Who do you have? It's a guarantee.
I got Tennessee over Mississippi State.
Okay.
I just feel like it's gonna be those are gonna want the win more than Mississippi State, pretty much.
It's both teams that desperately need a win.
Mm-hmm.
It's both teams that either one of them could win, and you're not really gonna blink an eye because it's like, well, whatever. It's Tennessee. It was Mississippi State. They're way down in the dumps. I saw a fight for Tennessee against Georgia for a little bit.
Yeah, they were leading there for a while.
Yeah, they were leading 14-7, and then all of a sudden Tennessee never scored again. But I mean, I've seen a fight throughout this year from them different than years past, and so that's one thing for me to where I could possibly agree with you on that upset pick. My upset special for this week is going to be Temple. If people haven't had the opportunity to see Temple too often, yeah, you haven't really saw them since that time against Maryland earlier in the season, but they have a great defense, one of the best defenses in the AAC, probably behind Cincinnati, and they're taking on Memphis, who is ranked now, by the way. Memphis is ranked, and I think that Temple at home is going to get that W, and I'd say write that down now because I really do believe in the Temple Owls and things that I've seen not only this year but in years past that have showed me that honestly Temple's a team that should be talked about a little bit more than what they are.
And the AAC is a pretty good.
And the AAC is a great conference, and I know there's not a Power 6, but if you would ever go that way, you could at some point argue that there could be a Power 6, and you could include the AAC in there, and the other four would be the non-Power 4 teams, especially with how down right now the Pac-12 is, and even this year the ACC. So you could definitely argue that for sure. And between Memphis, between Cincinnati, between Temple,
UCF,
between Central Florida, who's started to fall now, that competition's building, and who knows? I'm looking forward to any AAC games, and I think that everyone listening now needs to note to watch the Temple and Memphis game coming up. Unfortunately, as many games as I'd like to go over with you, because there are a ton this week. If you have the option to be by a TV or by a app or computer or ESPN. Something, you gotta get on ESPN, get wherever you are and watch the games because there's a ton. But unfortunately, that's all the games that we have time allowed for us today. We will, of course, be back next week, and we do, of course, thank you for the continuing support of our show. Please don't forget to subscribe on YouTube to Fumble Fever. That's the best way that you can make sure that you don't miss a show when it comes out. And do go ahead and follow us on Twitter as well. We put a lot of good content on there. It's Fumble Fever on Twitter. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.